All right, we are back. UFC 325 and a half. Oh, no, I'm sorry. UFC Perth. Della Maddalena versus Carlos Prates is this weekend, coming up here soon. Going to be at 5 in the morning, I believe, if you are an East Coast viewer. But either way, I'm going to break this entire card down fight by fight, give you guys the notes and style of each fighter, as well as my best bets and prediction for each fight. If you guys want the full recap, just the bets, fast forward to this part of the video. Let's get into it. The first fight on the card, Don Marfan versus Cody Steele. Don Marfan, he went 6-2 on the regional scene. Both of his losses are actually to Quillen Salkild on the regional scene, which I think is just kind of funny. Goes on the road to UFC and wins, makes his UFC debut at UFC 325 in Australia and gets a win. His style, he's just a crafty striker. He does well from range where he can use his length. Has some solid stamina and anti-grappling. I think really the only fight that I've familiar with of his is his most recent one. I don't have access to the UFC road to UFC stuff, so really the only thing I'm basing this off of is his fight at UFC 325. His opponent Cody Steele, he went 6-0 on the regional scene, fought in Fury FC, gets a knockout win on the Contender Series, debuts in the UFC undefeated. He debuts at UFC 312 and then loses to Rong Zhu. His style, he's wild and reckless striker. This really looks to land these big looping blows. The power seems average, but he just leaves himself way too vulnerable too often because he's always loading up and overextending, trying to land these big bombs. My prediction for the fight, I think Don Marfan will win via round 3 TKO. I was actually really surprised to see that Cody Steele was the betting favorite here. I feel like Don Marfan was just a better fighter overall. I think he uses his length and his speed to just kind of hang around on the outside, outpoint, and then, eventually find a knockout later in the third round. So yeah, I think Marfan money line at underdog money is a really good bet there. And the over of 1.5 rounds at minus 340 makes a lot of sense. Moving on to the next fight, we got Jonathan Mikalev versus Themba Gorimbo. Jonathan Mikalev went 6-1 on the regional scene, became a champ in Hex, debuts at UFC 312 after a win on the Contender Series. Gets a win in his second most recent fight at UFC 325, so he's 1-1 in the UFC so far. His style throws very strong body and head kicks when he's standing. Looks to keep the fight standing for the most part, but he does have submission ability. I think he's got 7 submission wins as well. He does tend to kind of ease his way into fights, but he does get better as the fight goes on. Once he dips his toe in the water and he feels it out, I think he's a much better fighter. Themba Gorimbo, he was the guy that Dwayne The Rock Johnson bought him a house. And I don't really think he's known much for anything other, like outside of that. Not really his UFC career, because he joined the UFC in 2023, and so far he's been pretty average, 4-3. He's coming off of 2 straight losses, so looking to bounce back in this one. His style, he's a really average fighter. He really lacks speed and explosivity on the feet. He has a great grappling base, will control from top position at times, struggles with submission defense at times, but really what's missing is that explosivity and speed on the feet. He can land shots, but they just don't come with any velocity at times, and so they can be easily telegraphed, things like that. My prediction for the fight, I do think Jonathan Mikalev will get this done by unanimous decision. Mikalev at minus 245 makes a lot of sense. And the fight to go the distance at plus money, I think, is an even better bet, just because Jonathan Mikalev is, a decent finisher, and Themba has finishes as well, but I just don't see that being where this fight kind of goes. I think if Themba, his path to victory is via control wrestling, and if he can wrestle fuck Mikalev for 3 rounds, then good on him. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Mikalev will just kind of outstrike him on the feet. If he does get taken down, maybe he'll lose a round, but he has the ability to scramble and get back to his feet as well. So I think Mikalev's got him beat really in every facet of this fight. The third fight on the card, Ben Johnston versus Wes Schultz. Ben Johnston, he only has 6 pro fights. But he's 35. So he's got, I think, the least amount of, no, he doesn't have the least amount of pro fights, but some of the least amount of pro fights on the entire card. But he's still 35 years old, 5-1, comes from Eternal MMA, where he became a champion. I think this is his UFC debut as well. His style is a really basic striker with exceptional BJJ grappling, but untested competition and cardio. He fought a 5'8" South Korean at middleweight on the regional scene, and that just kind of bummed me out. But it just kind of speaks to the competition that he was facing. Like, if you have a chance, go actually look up like Ben Johnston. I don't even remember the guy's name, but he was fighting a 5'8" Korean. Not a good look. 100% of his wins do come by submission in under 2 rounds, though. So he's never seen a round 3. I don't even think he's seen the second half of a round 2. His opponent, Wes Schultz, he went 7-1 on the regional scene, gets a shot on the Dana White Contender Series, gets knocked out by Mansour Abdul-Malik, works his way back to the Contender Series, and gets a win via Suluev stretch. If you watch the Contender Series, that's this guy. He's the one that got win via Suluev stretch. It's a really unique thing. So if you saw it, you probably wouldn't forget. Then he gets KO'd in his debut against Damian Pinas. So he's lost, but the losses, we'll talk about it. His style, he's a good BJJ grappler, really good submission ability. He has the ability to deal ground and pound. His cardio and durability is just really the big question mark. Striking is fairly below average, but all of his losses are coming to good competition. Mansour Abdul-Malik is a really good fighter. Damian Pinas is going to be, I really believe in him as like kind of the next big thing at middleweight. So his losses aren't terrible. He's just, like I said, a good BJJ grappler. He's kind of like the American version of Ben Johnson, really. I just think he's a little bit better, which leads me into my prediction. I do think Wes Schultz is going to win via submission in round 2. I think Ben Johnston is going to be comfortable initiating grappling exchanges and not really think about the fact that Wes Schultz is a really good grappler himself. And he's going to find his way into a submission. It'll be, if you like grappling exchanges, this will be a fun one. I think neither of these guys are really going to look to keep the fight on the feet for too long. And yeah, the fight to end in a submission at minus 160 and Schultz at plus money. I get that Schultz looked really bad in this fight against Damian Pinas, but Ben Johnston is not him. Like they're two different fighters. Like I said, the guys that Wes Schultz are losing to are just on a different level than a lot of the guys that Ben Johnston has faced up to this point in his career. So I just think Wes Schultz has given me more reasons to believe that he will get this done. So I'm picking Wes Schultz on this one. The next fight on the card, we got Colby Thickness versus Vince Morales. Colby Thickness, he went undefeated on the regional scene, became a champ over in Hex, loses his UFC debut against Alexandre Topuria at UFC 312, but then wins his most recent fight back in September. His style, he's an above-average wrestler, looks to take the fight to the mat and really get to work there. Stand-up is evolving, but still fairly average, I'd say. His opponent, Vince Morales, he loses on the Dana White Contender Series, signs with the UFC after a fight in Bellator, and then in 2018, goes 3-5, gets cut, wins some more fights on the regional scene. Now he's back in the UFC, but he's 0-3. So you do the math, he's combined 3-8 in the UFC so far. So not great, but his style, he's a pressure striker with decent striking ability. Like he's more at times focused on keeping the pressure than he is actually striking. It feels like he'll walk his opponents down into where he wants them to be and then not really do anything with that once he's there, if that makes sense. Crafty scrambling and grappling ability, just not really the strongest. He can move on the feet and maneuver. And like I said, he's got that crafty kind of ability, but he just doesn't really have the strength to stop himself from being controlled at times. And he's a durable guy. He's tough to put away. He hasn't been finished in any of his losses in his second stint, I believe. And he's fought some good competition as well. However, my prediction for the fight, I do think Colby Thickness will win via unanimous decision. Like I said, Vince Morales is a tough guy to finish and put away, so I think the fight to go the distance at minus 240 is probably the best bet here. Vince Morales isn't not that great. Colby Thickness isn't either, but I think he is definitely better than Vince Morales, so I will take his money line at minus 125. I think that's fair value as well. So moving on to the next fight, Jacob Malkoun versus GM3, Gerald Meerschaert. Jacob Malkoun, he started off his career 4-0 on the regional scene before signing with the UFC in 2020. He's been 5-3 in the UFC so far, but he is coming off of 2 straight wins, most recently at 325 against Torres Finney. His style, he's a crisp boxer with a really nice jab. I'd say that's definitely his best weapon. Surprisingly good anti-grappling. His ability to halt Torres Finney kind of in his tracks was impressive. Like, people don't really do that to Torres Finney. That style, that he's so compact and strong and wants to hold you up against the cage, and you know what Torres Finney does. His ability to stop that has aged really well, in my opinion. So his ability to stop that, really the only thing is he's got a really questionable fight IQ. He could have finished that Torres Finney fight in the first round. If you go back and watch the entire time, it's like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, he has him hurt so many times. If he just increases the volume by 1 tick, like, that fight is his in the first round, but just kind of seemed content dueling it out. But his opponent, Gerald Meerschaert, he used to be a GM3, otherwise known as. He's a very experienced UFC vet, tons of MMA fights under his belt, but he has struggled a lot most recently. and especially in this most recent stint of like 5 fights. Sadly, he's looking very washed. His style, really good BJJ submission artist that used to be known for, like, his nickname GM3 is like his second health bar appears in the third round. He would kind of outlast these guys, use his endurance to get into round 3 and find a submission. He's just had an awful chin and really struggled to get any part of his game going in his most recent fights. I was at the UFC 322 event where it's a submission loss, but he got stunned and subbed really bad, like immediately. Loses via round 1 knockout the fight before that as well. So like I said, just not looking great for him. My prediction for the fight, I do think Jacob Malkoun will win via round 1 KO. GM3 money line at plus 900. Why not? I could definitely, I mean, I don't see it, but I could see it. I could just see how, maybe GM3 drags the fight deeper, takes advantage of his crafty veteranship over Jacob Malkoun, and is able to maybe pull out a submission win in the third round. I don't know. But at plus 900, probably not something you're going to want to put a lot on. But I do think Malkoun will get it done. The fight not to go the distance at minus 225 makes a lot of sense, just because GM3 is very vulnerable and has not looked great recently. And if GM3 wins, I do think it'll have to be via a submission. I don't think he's going to be able to win more than half of this fight through 15 minutes. The next fight on the card, we have Junior Tafa versus Kevin Christian. Junior Tafa, he comes in the UFC 4-0 as a heavyweight, completely transforms his body, gets down to light heavyweight. He's really struggling, though, still in the UFC. He's 2-5. Don't really know why he's still on the roster. I guess he's kind of a fun fighter, but if you were to look at this guy at heavyweight, it's a crazy transformation that he's made to get down to light heavyweight. His style comes from a boxing background, and it's very obvious because he fights like he does not understand the rules of MMA. Abysmal anti-grappling. If you want to shoot a takedown, go ahead. I mean, there is a real shot that you watching this video could take Junior Tafa down after one grappling class. Like, it is really, really bad. Doesn't check any leg kicks. Just wants to kind of box. But with that being said, he does have really good power and clean boxing if he can stay upright. That's where he wants to win, is standing. His opponent, Kevin Christian, goes 8-2 on the regional scene in Brazil and gets a submission win on the Dana White Contender Series. Loses his UFC debut against Billy Alicana via round 1 submission. Billy Alicana won by round 2 submission over Junior Tafa in Junior Tafa's most recent fight as well at UFC 325. But Kevin Christian, his style, he's a lengthy, low output fighter. He's massive for the division. He's 6'7". So, massive, 6'7". Not great there. But anyways, he has submission wins, but his grappling skill seems to be pretty average. Yeah, he just seems to be one of these guys that's just really big for the division as opposed to actually good at fighting, unfortunately. So my prediction for the fight, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually picking Junior Tafa to win a fight in the UFC in 2026. I think he will win via round 1 knockout. Kevin Christian doesn't do anything. It's like he just kind of waits for, I don't even know. Like I said, he just very low output, wants to use his length, but just doesn't do much. So I think Tafa to win by knockout at minus 140 is really the only reasonable bet here. But you are dealing with Junior Tafa. Like, this is somebody that probably shouldn't be in the UFC. I just don't think Kevin Christian should be in the UFC either. And so I think if Kevin Christian is going to be comfortable standing and exchanging with Junior Tafa is going to get the better of those exchanges. The next fight on the card, we got Cameron Austin versus Robert Brasik. Cameron Austin, he went 14-3, trains out of City Kickboxing, loses on the Dana White Contender Series, but comes back and gets the W. Now he's 2-0 in the UFC so far. His style, he's a really lengthy kickboxer, but actually has very good power and a complete killer instinct. That is, I think, what separates him and what really stood out about a lot of his fights. Once he has his opponent hurt, he knows how to get the finish. He can pounce. He feels it. A lot of people just don't have that. Surprisingly, in mixed martial arts, he does. Once he has his opponent hurt, he can find the finish. He's a complete mixed martial artist, though, with submission ability if the fight hits him mad as well. His opponent, Robert Brasik, he has tons of fights on the regional scene. He went 17-5 over there. Finally joins the UFC in 2024, loses his debut, but bounced back big time with the KO win in his most recent fight. His style, he's a power puncher that just pressures the entire fight and does good body work. He is kind of plotty and struggles to keep a pace. Like, he struggles to keep a 3-round pace, but he doesn't stop pressuring, if that makes sense. He's always moving forward constantly, but the output drastically decreases. So he's constantly moving forward, but the output just necessarily isn't always the same over 15 minutes. My prediction for the fight, I do think Cam Roston will win via round two TKO. The fight not to go the distance at minus 220, and I'm sure Cam Roston's money line is actually fine. I just didn't include it in the graphic. I'm not sure, but Cam Roston money line would probably make sense. I don't know why I didn't look. It is probably a really close fight. Cam Roston, like I said, is just really big, trains with a good gym. I'm always going to favor these guys that are evolving at good gyms like City Kickboxing. Like, that is an elite gym. So yeah, I think Cam Roston will get this one done. Robert Brychek, his path to victory is just landing one of those big shots. Like I said, he's a power puncher, so it really does only take one from him. I just don't know if he's going to be able to land that one in this one. The next fight, Tai Tuivasa versus Louis Sutherland to kick off the main card of this event. Tai Tuivasa, he was always been a really fun, entertaining fighter. He joined the UFC in 2017, became a fan favorite, known for like doing a shoey after he would get a knockout. Just cannot find a win recently. He's lost 6 in a row, and his last win was 4 years ago. I was in high school this last time this guy won a fight. I'm graduating college tomorrow. So, he's got to be on the brink of getting cut. This is, it's been a while since we've seen him win a fight in the UFC. His style, sadly, has just become an average fat heavyweight with KO power. Looks to scrap and land a big shot, put you out. Absolutely awful cardio. We saw that in the Tallis and Teixeira fight at UFC 325. Hopes to keep the fight standing, just has very little resistance to grappling. He got a tattoo that said jiu-jitsu. Really weird. Don't get that at all. Do not be confused by that tattoo. He does not have very good grappling skill. Like I said, wants to keep the fight standing and just land a big shot. Louis Sutherland, his opponent, he went 6-2 on the regional scene, came a champ in Levels FC. He's 0-2 in the UFC so far, getting finished in the first round twice in both of his fights. Used to be juiced out of his mind, and now he's just kind of a fat ass. His style, he's a fat heavyweight with actually sneaky athletic ability in his kickboxing. He, like I said, you can see by the build over on the right of your screen, but he does have that sneaky kind of athleticism to him at times. Absolutely zero grappling skill and a pretty questionable fight IQ. Not strong in the grappling department, and then tried to initiate grappling against Brando Perisic and then got knocked out immediately. Weird stuff. My prediction for the fight, I do actually think Tai Tuivasa will win via round 1 TK or via round 1 KO. Seems like a layup for him. They were going to give him Sean Sheriff, and I mean, he's awful. Louis Sutherland isn't much better. It is heavyweight MMA. Anything can happen. Louis Sutherland does still have some power, I think. I hope. I mean, there's a reason why he's in the UFC, I think, right? And but Tai Tuivasa money line at minus 190, and the fight to go under 1.5 rounds. I was super dead set on the fight going under 1.5 rounds with Tallis and Teixeira and Tai Tuivasa, and that fight kind of drug out. I don't think that's a common thing that's going to be happening. Tai Tuivasa, I think he wants to get this one done fast in front of his home crowd. I think it's just, like I said, kind of a layup. The UFC setting this one up for him. Wouldn't be surprised if he retires after this fight, because I don't think there's anything left for Tai Tuivasa to do. At one point, he was his title contender. Now he's facing Louis Sutherland on the first card of a fight night. So, yeah, I do think Tai Tuivasa will win, though, and it'll be a good moment for him to be in his home crowd. The next fight, Shamil Gaziev versus Brando Perisic. Shamil Gaziev went 10-0 with 9 finishes before getting a win on the Dana White Contender Series. He's 3-2 in the UFC so far. He actually won his first fight and then got a fight night main event against Rosenstrike and lost via retirement. Got finished by Waldo Cortez Acosta in his most recent fight as well. His style, a very well-rounded fighter that has skill on the ground and stand-up, but not really overly elite anywhere that the fight goes. He's just kind of an above-average fighter everywhere, and at a weight class like heavyweight, that's kind of just allowed him to be this ranked guy that can get wins. His cardio is not great, though. He also used to be juiced out of his mind, and now he looks like this. His opponent, Brando Perisic, he went 4-1 on the regional scene. Dana White Contender Series fight gets canceled, then rebooked as just a normal UFC bout. So he debuts in the UFC, gets a round 1 finish there, and then beats Louis Sutherland via round 1 TKO on the UFC London card. His style, he moves well on his feet for a heavyweight, but still carries that heavyweight power. He's a really good athlete. He moves, like I said, exceptionally well. Has a grappling base, but mostly looks to stand and exchange. His cardio is still very untested. He hasn't made it out of a first round, I don't think, ever. Um, and he's fairly new to MMA. He doesn't have a whole lot of fights under his belt. My prediction for the fight, I do think Breno Perisic will win this one via round one KO. It's a pretty big toss up, and it's a lot of trust in Brando Perisic. A lot of that might just be the hype that he has going into this and what he did in his most recent fight. But like I said, he's a really good athlete, and I just think he has more to his game. His strengths outweigh the strengths of Shamil Gaziev. I think Shamil Gaziev is a more complete fighter, but I think Brando Perisic will be able to get this one done. And at minus 135, I think it makes a lot of sense as well. The next fight, Marwan Rahiki versus Ali Schmid. Marwan Rahiki, he went on the Dana White Contender Series, had an insane comeback. I mean, it looked like he got flatlined, somehow gets up and then knocks out his opponent, like all within the same like 2-minute span. Crazy fight, helped build his name. Then he debuted against Harry Hardwick on the, I believe it was the Kevin Vallejos card, where he actually broke the jaw of Harry Hardwick and had another really fun scrap. His style, lengthy striker that just throws with great accuracy. He has power in his hands, leaves himself open to shots, but seems to just have like a crazy good chin and tons of heart that allows him to continue going with these fights. He's only been in bangers so far. His Contender Series fight and his fight against Harry Hardwick were great. I have reason to believe that he's not pillow fisted just because Harry Hardwick has a complete coconut head. Um, but there are definite times where it's, you question whether or not he's actually that powerful. But like I said, he broke Hardwick's jaw, was able to get him done by, I guess, retirement in the second round, but it was because he couldn't continue. Super fun scrapper. His opponent, Ollie Schmid, he's a young prospect that trains out of City Kickboxing. He's 4-2 on the regional scene. He's making his UFC debut. This is a short notice replacement for Marwan Rahiki. He's a strong kickboxer with good size and footwork that's obviously still evolving in his game. He's been finished twice already on the regional scene, and he's shown willingness to initiate grappling. To be honest, I don't really know a ton. I mean, he's, like I said, he's making his UFC debut, and I've only seen a few fights of his. My prediction for the fight, I do think Marwan Rahiki will win via round 2 TKO. But Schmid moneyline at plus 550, I don't know. Why not? He doesn't seem awful. He trains out of a good gym and he has decent wins. Like I said, he's been finished twice, but like Marwan Rahiki, you can make an argument that he could be finished twice. Obviously could, but he's, like I said, left himself open to a lot of shots and is not been the most technically sound guy. So if Ollie Schmidt can land a big one and put him away, who knows? Plus 550, so why not? All right, the next fight on the card is Tim Elliott versus Steve Erceg. Tim Elliott, he originally joined the UFC in 2012, then gets cut, goes back on the Ultimate Fighter, wins a bunch of fights over there, and then loses the finale to Demetrius Johnson. He has been a really above average flyweight, really, for the majority of his career. Although he's been fairly inactive, he's just kind of been this like top 15 gatekeeper. His most recent fight was him completely eliminating all hype from Kai Asakura at UFC 319. His style is very awkward and unorthodox on the feet, moves around just very awkwardly, but I think it's more of just like a disguise to hide behind what's pretty below average stand up, honestly. He's a much better grappler, looks to secure takedowns and find submissions there. He has really crafty submission ability as well. See his opponent, Steve Versailles, get a big run on Eternal MMA, on the regionals, he becomes a champ over there, picks up a few wins in the UFC, then gets a title shot against Pantoja, loses that, gets a lot more elite competition, Moreno, Kai Kara France, loses all those fights, but then bounces back with a win over Ade Osborne. His style, he's a big guy for the division. He has really good hand speed and throws a lot of good combos. Does a good job keeping the fight standing with his takedown defense as well. My prediction for the fight, I do think Steve Erceg will win via unanimous decision. Erceg moneyline at minus 180 makes sense. Tim Elliott under significant strikes. I don't think if he wins or does really anything significant at all in this fight, it's going to be stand up against Steve Erceg. Steve Erceg does a really good job of avoiding getting hit for the most part. And the fight to go the distance at minus 210, just because neither of these guys are super big finishers. But I think Tim Elliott's his path to success is securing a takedown and finding the submission, or just controlling if he's able to find and get a takedown early. Steve Erceg just has to do just kind of what he really does most of the time, which is, you know, keep the fight standing, and then use his clear and obvious advantage in hand speed and boxing to get this one done. The next fight on the card, we got Beneil Dariush versus Quillen Salkeld, the co-main event. How about this? If you guys know, I posted on my Snapchat story. I matched this before I did this. I made the entire lightweight division, and I made this matchup. I said in the reasoning, I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and kill Beneil Dariush. Let's get him out of here. Quillen Salkeld, young, exciting prospect. Let's do this. Beneil Dariush was supposed to get Manuel Torres. That fight gets canceled. Now he's taking on Quillen Salkeld. What a series of unfortunate events for Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush, notes on him, joins the UFC all the way back in 2014 and went on a big streak, became a top contender in the lightweight division actually in 2022. Gets KO'd by Oliveira in 2023, and since then he's just been on a really downward trajectory. It's actually hard for people that are new to MMA to realize that Beneil Dariush is actually a solid, he's a good fighter, or was at least anyways. His style, very strong control grappler that can and will give a lot of people problems if you let him hang around. Like I said, it's tough to just kind of dog on him because of what he's done most recently. But like we even saw in the Moicano fight, if you do not put him away, he will become a problem. He will give you tons of problems. But he has probably the worst chin in the entire UFC. I mean, like Benoit Saint Denis just kind of threw normal, like there wasn't a whole lot of rotation. There was no power. They were standing right there in the clinch, just like this shot to his chin, and it flatlined Beneil Dariush, like completely face into the canvas, flatlined him. The chin is not great, to say the least. His opponent, Quillen Salkeld, loses his pro MMA debut, but since then he's been 11-0. He's been on an 11-0 win streak, gets a win on the Dana White Contender Series, became a champ on the regional scene. He's coming off of 2 first-round finishes, including the bakery head kick. If you know, you know, I guess. Really flashy stuff from Quillen Salkeld that's kind of led him to become one of the most hyped-up UFC prospects. Not just in lightweight, but in the entirety of the UFC. His style, he's huge for the division. I think he's 6'1". Really crisp striking ability. Definite power in his hands, but I think he's an even better grappler, which is kind of crazy to say. He's a BJJ black belt, has tons of grappling skill in his bag. We saw it in his most recent fight. Go back and watch his Contender Series fight. Like, he's dominating guys, and his size helps for sure. He's a very good grappler, sneaky good grappler. Because all of his highlights are him striking and things like that, people kind of forget that he is that guy when it comes to grappling as well. My prediction for the fight, I do think Quillen Salkeld will knock him out in the first round. This is kind of a common sentiment amongst people that are kind of doing that are picking this fight. And I think it's for a good reason. I'm not going to stray away from anything. I'm not going to say. I will throw out Beneil Dariush decision at plus 900. If Salkeld doesn't put him away and he somehow gets controlled, which I don't think that'll even happen if he can't put Dariush away, that is a possible outcome where kind of Beneil just survives enough and is able to secure takedowns, sit in top position, and just kind of control his way to a victory. So at that, for plus 900 is fine, I guess. But Quillen Salkeld money line to minus 450. It's tough. I think, like I said, I think he will get a knockout in the first round. Seems to be, like I said, the common thought amongst everybody. But this fight could go a lot of different ways. I could see Beneil immediately initiating grappling, and then Quillen Salkeld is able to maybe find a reversal, get a submission. But yeah, I think Quillen Salkeld's just going to outmatch him really everywhere, which is kind of crazy to say because Beneil is a good grappler. But yeah, I think Quillen Salkeld will get this done with relative ease. The main event. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so electric. This has got to be like one of the best fight night main events, just pure fight, that we've had in like so long. This fight, I mean, whenever it got announced, however many months ago, I knew like I'm graduating while this fight's happening. You bet your ass I'm going to have that shit on my phone in the stands. Like, I will walk across the stage with that shit on if need be. Like, I am so juiced up for this fight. It's going to be great. Jack Della Maddalena, the notes on him. He trains out of City Kickboxing, comes from the Dana White Contender Series, goes on a big win streak in the UFC, beats Bilal Muhammad to become champion of the welterweight division. And then his very next fight was against Islam Makhachev, where he sadly gets wrestle fucked at UFC 322 and loses his belt. His style, he's an incredibly slick kickboxer, great accuracy and good power. I think that gets lost kind of with how his performances in the UFC have been so far. Despite his most recent loss, he is not completely unskilled and helpless as a grappler. He does have skill in that department. Watch the Kevin Holland fight. Like this, there's skill there. It's just, it's Islam Makhachev. So it's going to look a lot worse than it usually is. But if I had to pick one word to describe Jack Della Maddalena, it's slick, super accurate, moves very well. His footwork is phenomenal. His opponent, Carlos Prates, trains out of Fighting Nerds. His only loss was to Ian Gary. Since then, he's had 11 straight knockout wins outside of that fight. I think I don't. He's just a knockout artist, regardless. Go look at the knockout numbers. He has so many, over 100 Muay Thai fights. Like, this guy is a killer. Smokes a pack a day. Not joking. He smokes a pack of cigarettes every single day. He's a chronic smoker. It's so electric. This guy is one of my favorites. His style, he's a lengthy Muay Thai striker. Like I said, over 100 Muay Thai fights. He's become I think he's got to be one of the hardest pound for pound hitters in the entire UFC. Like, he is literally welterweight Poatan. If you really look at it, when he connects flush, he puts these guys out. He seems to enter this kind of groove where everything, you can see he starts moving differently. He's moving his hands differently. Everything's just he's able to slow the fight down. And once he hits that spot, there is nobody that's able to beat him. There's nobody that's able to stop him. And like I said, he has the power to win. If he lands flush, it's over. My prediction for the fight, I do think Carlos Prates will win via round 4 KO. He had his moment in the Ian Gary fight as well. You can even argue, he could have won that fight. But I think Prates money line, he's a slight favorite at minus 120, and Prates KO at plus 160 are two of the best bets here. JDM over on significant strikes, I think, isn't bad either, because if you think the fight's going to go the other way, you can go there. My reasoning is I think they are both great, great strikers. And based off of just pure skill, I think JDM actually has a slight advantage. I think his footwork is better. He moves better. He's more accurate. He's more slick. But when you have a 25-minute fight, somebody that is as dangerous and lethal as Carlos Prates, if you give him 25 minutes, I think there's no way he doesn't find a way to find the knockout, to get a finish. He's just so dangerous. And I love JDM as a fighter. He's so fun to watch. But Carlos Prates is my guy. I mean, look at what he's doing to these guys like Leon Edwards, who's never been finished before. Literally taking him off his feet. He's that dude. So powerful, so strong. And like I said, if you give him 25 minutes, I think he's going to be able to find a finish. So I think as the fight progresses, maybe it happens earlier, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does happen later. I don't think this fight will go to a decision, though. And if it does, I think it's going to favor Jack Della Maddalena. I think if you give Jack Della Maddalena 25 minutes to not get finished, he will also find a way to win that decision. Because like I said, he's so slick and accurate. He will steal rounds, enough rounds from Carlos Prates. It's just really a matter of if you think Carlos Prates is going to find the big shot. To recap everything, the high value straights, I think Dariush decision, Schmid money line, Prates KO, Don Marfan money line, and GM3 money line. I think it's a good week for some high value straights. I could see some BS happening this week. I could. I don't know why, but I feel like there's some shenanigans that could get pulled. So any of those bets, crazy odds. It's who saw that coming? Hopefully you can be prepared and say, well, I didn't actually see it coming, but I thought it was a reasonable possibility. So any of those low monetary value, throw those in. Maybe you'll get some good high value return. But in terms of parlay legs, Tai Tuivasa versus Louis Sutherland under 1.5 rounds. I think that's probably the best bet there. I will say with caution, I thought the Tai Tuivasa versus Talison Teixeira was for sure, but I think this fight's even more of a for sure. Under 1.5 rounds makes too much sense. Prates money line, Sal Keld money line, Steve Verseg money line, and Jonathan Mikulev money line all make a lot of sense. I think those are the guys I'm most confident in. I'm really confident in a lot of other people too. I'm super confident in Don Marfan, but he's got plus money, so there's not really any reason to combine any sort of picks with that. You've got great value as it is. So tons of great value on this card if you just look hard enough. I'm super juiced for this one. I will definitely be making a recap video probably on Saturday night. So you will probably see that on the Saturday. I was trying to get this video uploaded earlier. Next week, I'm done with school. So I'm going to probably pump out a couple more videos. Hopefully, we'll see. We say this all the time, as you know. But yeah, super excited for this card. It's going to be a really good one. Hopefully, I'll be able to watch all of it. I don't know. We'll see. I will be up at 5 in the morning to see the prelims and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope you guys are excited too. This would be a good one. Let me know what you guys place. Let me know how well you did. Hopefully, I don't screw you up or screw you over. We've been iffy so far, but there's a lot of fights on the card that I feel really good about. So I'm feeling good overall about this card. So hopefully it goes well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later today if you're watching this on Saturday or Saturday night after the fights for the breakdown. See ya.